Meehan with H3 TV, and I am so glad you're joining us on your lunch hour today to learn a little bit more about how to stay healthy, how to stay hopeful, and how to stay happy. Today, I have Barb with me, and we're going to focus on hope. How do you stay hopeful? But I hope that you'll take some notes, you'll take some tips, and you'll share the wisdom that Barb shares with us with people you know, because we all need a little more hope. So thanks so much, Barb, for being with me. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and what do you do?
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Annie. As she said, my name is Barb Teicher, and I am a global leadership development and communications speaker. I have a focus on women, and I help accelerate women to be more influential leaders with greater impact. The name of my book is It's How You Say It, and I was fortunate enough to have that endorsed by the Washington Post, and I am a global TED Talk speaker. So that's Barb in a nutshell.
I love it. Also, all great stuff. So,
Thank
Barb,
you.
I know that you are a super hopeful person, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
so happy to have you talking about hope. So, what are 3 to 5 of your keys? How do you stay hopeful?
You know, Annie, I think part of it is who you hang around. We, as nice people, want to hang around everyone that wants to hang around with us. But the challenge is, those people that the glass is always half empty. And when we're around those types of people, I think it brings us down. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that no matter what happens, in my opinion, you have to step back and look at what's around you. Are there people that love you? Are there people that you love, right? Did you get out of bed today, and can you see and can you hear and can you talk and all of those things? So I think sometimes we take things for granted. That would be the second thing. And the third thing I think that's important is to have something to look forward to. That could be coffee with girlfriends, that could be lunch, it could be vacation. But those are three things that I try and center on to keep me moving forward.
I love that. Those are great answers. I think about people as Winnie the Pooh characters. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but I think you have to be careful how many Eeyores we have in our life, right? And you said half empty, but I always think if you have unhealthy or negative people, setting strong boundaries, because it does protect you from and help you stay hopeful and help you stay looking forward to. I love the looking forward to. I'm always like, what's next? What can I do? And I sometimes have to get back to the present, but I love to plan the vacation, plan a date night, plan time with a friend, plan a walk. Those are great, great suggestions. So I
You
hope
know,
our listeners,
no, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I didn't mean to.
you're good. You're good. Go
I
ahead.
was
What were you
going to
gonna say?
say that one of the things you just said I think is so important. I actually do a program on this, and that is setting boundaries. In this age where we feel like we have to do everything, and you mentioned this, Annie, I think setting boundaries for ourselves to keep not only our hope alive, but our mental health and our physical health. I think those are very important things. So couldn't agree with you more.
Excellent. I love it. Okay, so life gets hard, right? When you've
Yeah.
had some challenges, I've had some challenges, life has been challenging. What do you do when life's challenging? Give us an example of a challenge, and then how do you stay hopeful? Because it's easy to stay hopeful when the sun is shining and people are calling to
Absolutely.
book us and everything's good. But when things are hard, give us an example of that, and then how did you stay hopeful?
You know me well, so you already know this, but for the folks that are listening, and thank you also for joining. 2 years ago, I had a catastrophic bicycle accident in the south of France with my husband. We were on one of those organized group tours the first day, and I was incapacitated. I have had 6 surgeries. I still have 2 procedures to go, and it's been over 2 years. So there was a time when I literally I couldn't move. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. And those can be some dark days. So to answer your question of how did you stay hopeful? For me personally, I am a woman of strong faith, and I could not have done this without that. I relied on that a lot, and it gave me that peace they talk about that surpasses understanding. I also went back to what I said on the first question. I couldn't get out, but I surround myself with people that I love that love me. My husband was a huge, huge support. My friends came over and brought broth, not food I couldn't eat, but brought things like that. And I focused on what was good. A quick example, I remember one day I was sitting in the front room, and my husband, I don't know if I can say this online, so works for a very large sports entertainment network, I guess. I can say, I don't know. Anyway, he was at football camp, and we had folks coming in every day to open my broth and help me. And I remembered sitting in the living room, and the good news is some wonderful people had sent flowers. There were flowers everywhere, which was good. The bad news was they had all died, and I couldn't move, so I couldn't throw them out. And the stench I don't know if you've ever smelled dead flowers, but it was awful. And for the first time, I had my first real gut wrenching boo-hoo, which I think is fine, right? You've got to get it out. And I remembered sitting there, and I must have cried for 10 minutes, and I thought, okay, what do you have to be thankful for? So how do I remain hopeful? Is I remain thankful. And I remember looking outside thinking, wow, it's summer. If it were winter, I couldn't have people help me out under the deck. And I'd be afraid I'd fall on the ice and I couldn't see the trees and the flowers and the birds singing. So I think a lot of that, to answer your second question, is perspective also. Are you the Eeyore, right? Or are you the glass half full? And I'm not talking about fake optimism, okay? I think to me, that's a negative of people that never seem like they ever don't smile, right? And you just want to go, oh, please, right? Get real. So I'm not talking about that, but I am talking about getting out of yourself and seeing how other people may see you. Wow, you've got a husband who loves you. You have, it's a beautiful day. It's all that stuff. So I kind of try and look at things I have to be thankful for.
I love that, Barb.
And my faith. Yeah.
Yeah, I think two things that I want to reiterate that you said is that we all have bike crashes, right? You had a literal physical bike crash that stopped you, but we all have things that we crash into, right? Whether it's our job not working out, our relationships, or our children, or just what our finances. So I love that you gave us such a beautiful visual. I'm so sorry you went through that horrific accident, and yet I know there's lessons in it, right? But you said two really important things. I think you said focus on the positive. Focus on the positive, but you also said look for the good, which I think are two different things. They're similar, but they're different. One was focus, but one was look for. Like if we're looking down or we're only looking at our problems, we're only looking at what we're crashing into, we aren't open to looking at, hey, what is wonderful? What is good? What is working in my life? And so I love that. That was a really good visual analogy that I know our listeners have their own struggles. And I always want to acknowledge life isn't perfect, right? For anyone. So it's how do you stay hopeful when it gets hard, right? And great example, Barb. Those are beautiful. So do you think that hope comes from, and also you said focus on your faith, focus on something bigger than yourself, right? Spending time in prayer, spending time believing that there's a God that believes good stuff and good stuff for you. So do you think that hope comes from a choice or kind of happens by chance or based on circumstance? Where do you think hope comes from?
I do think hope is a choice. And I don't think you have to test that hope until you have those certain circumstances, right? You never know, and this is for me personally, you never know how strong you need to be, or you never know how strong you are, rather, until you know how strong you need to be, right? I have a niece who is starting chemotherapy today for breast cancer. Everyone has something, right? The pandemic, it took us all away from each other, not to mention all the other stuff it did. But as humans, we need this human connection. And that human connection gives us hope, right? Being around people that we care about, that make us feel good, right? I think that's important too. But I do think hope is a choice. I could have very easily, just like you were saying, someone going through bankruptcy or a divorce or a health diagnosis, whatever, everyone has something, right? That's why they call it life. It just happens. But when those things happen, you need to respond to it, and you have a choice. You can either let it debilitate you, and no one would go, oh, you shouldn't be like that, right? You're going through cancer, you're going through a divorce, you're going through a catastrophe. But those people that can go, you know what? I can do this. And I think of people that have substance abuse, right? It's not, man, I'm going to be great for the next month. It's going to be, I'm going to try to be good for the next minute. Can I do the next minute? And sometimes with hope, that's what it is. I mean, it is a minute to minute choice. Are you worthy, in my opinion, are you worth valuing that next minute, right? Are you going to let that debilitate you? You mentioned Winnie the Pooh earlier, Annie, and I had to laugh because there's a quote by Winnie the Pooh. Not for your listeners, they're going to go back and look this up, and this is not it verbatim, but it's close. I used to say to our daughter, you are stronger than you think, braver than you feel and stronger than you know, or there's something more than you know, or
Yeah.
something more intelligent than you know.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that it comes from the inside out. And I do feel um, that is a choice, whether it's hope in your personal life, hope in your work life, hope with your health or your kids or your fill in the blank. In my opinion, I do strongly feel that's a choice. Yeah.
I love it. I agree. I do think it's a choice. I think circumstances sometimes people feel like dictate, but I think it's a
I agree.
choice to stay hopeful. And I was thinking about my faith. We're both women of faith. And I was thinking, people say to me often, Annie, I don't know if I believe in God. And I never knew how to respond to that. And over the last few years, I've always thought, well, I just want you to know God still believes in you, even if you don't believe in
That's
him.
true.
And I think that's part of hope for me, like that choice of like, hey, I am not in the circumstance I want to be, or I'm not where I want to go, or man, I'm struggling. But you know what? God has better plans. And I think when we do have faith, it does make it easier to continue to hope when it feels hard to keep hoping. And I think you've been such a beautiful light of, I think a lot of people look and do think, oh, I'd give up. Oh man, if I couldn't move, if I hadn't. But you know what? We are stronger than we think. And not that we wish those circumstances on anyone, but that is when we dig deep into who we really are and, okay, how do I stay who I said I was when life was easier, when life is hard?
How
So
do I respond? Yes, and I am going to, if I may, share one quick example. I am going to start a sentence, and I know all these listeners can say the last word in their brain. And this is an assumption that I had that really impacted my health and was shattering my hope at first. And the saying is, the French are rude and they hate, the last word is, Americans, right? That was an assumption of mine. So I'm in an ambulance in a foreign country. I don't speak the language. I'm going to the ER. And I remembered thinking, oh my gosh, the French are rude and they hate Americans, which isn't true because I've spoken in France. They're delightful people. But the point is, I get to the ER and I thought I might be dying. I had been told I was going to lose my right arm. And as you see, it's working. But anyway, everyone in the ER was wearing black t-shirts. And the black t-shirt said on grave, Greve. And I thought it meant grave. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're all coroners. They're waiting for me to die. Oh my gosh, lions and tigers and bears. And the guide that was with us, who came with me, who was bilingual, I remember thinking, God, if I'm going to live, please give me a sign. Not one of these. Is this a sign? Is this not a sign? But I know it was a sign. And I'm like, please let me know if I'm going to die. And I asked him, I said, trying to make conversation, oh, I see this is going on, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what does that mean? And he says, oh, it means that everyone in the emergency room is on strike. So I associate that with America, throwing bottles. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a token American. I'm not going to make it. And just as I was praying that, please give me a sign, the guide, whose name was Olivier, and he looked like Olivier, right? He touches my shoulder and he says, I want to tell you something. He says, for the next 3 hours, you have a new husband, and I'm going to protect you and make sure you get the best care and communicate and stay with you. And so I hope Adam isn't jealous. And I thought, oh my gosh, jackpot, how much more obvious could that be? So my hope in that moment, and the point I'm telling you this for is, sometimes in order to have that hope, you need to reach out. If you feel like you can't get hope on your own, then please reach out to someone who can give you that hope.
that's right. And there are subtle signals and there are big ones. You got a big, beautiful one.
I got a big one, yeah.
You did. And I also spoke in Paris and people warned me. And I found the people of Paris to be the kindest, most generous. They invited me for meals. They invited me to their home. They took me out. They showed me. And I was like, these are the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And I asked at one point, why are you so kind to me? Like, that's not. And they said, because Americans are rude to us and assume we should know English. But you keep trying French. You're horrible at it, but you are at least trying and you're so kind. And because I was traveling alone, they said, you look at us. Most people, when they travel, are traveling with someone and kind of quickly glance over and say, tell me how to get there. Tell me. And it's how we treat people, right? So I love, oh my gosh, I love that story about that. It's going to make me cry about the man you met. And I still don't know what going on strike means, but we're not going to go into that. Okay. What's a big difference between being hopeful and being optimistic?
I think optimistic, in my opinion, is almost more of a personality trait. And to me, that optimism could be sincere and real, or it could be manufactured, right? There is a difference between saying, I'm going to get through this. I can make it through fill in the blank, chemo, the accident, the, whatever. At the same time, I also think that part of optimism, if it's real, is acknowledging the reality. Yes, I'm concerned about the new leadership team that's coming in. I've not heard good things, but you know what? I'm going to give them a break. And until I learn differently myself, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm really upset that I am hurt and I feel badly and I'm scared it may not get better, but you know what? I am optimistic that the doctors I have and the therapy I'm doing are the right things. La 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 la. That's optimism. I think in a way it's a personality trait. But to me, that hope may not be a personality trait, but it is something that you pull from inside of you. So people that are survivors, I will say, I don't believe you can survive without hope. I believe you may be able to survive without optimism.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that. I think that too. I think we can survive, a week without food, 3 days without water,
Right.
but it is really hard to feel alive when we don't have hope.
Right?
When we don't have hope. I think of optimism as like, kind of for me, and maybe it's different for other people, but I think I'm an optimist, kind of to the extreme. So I have really high expectations of myself and of other people. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, it's all going to work out. We're all going to live happily ever after. When people get divorced, they're going to get back together. And my husband's like, who are you? Could you be realistic? And I'm like, no, I just want it all to be beautiful.
Right.
But my hope, I feel like expectations leave me disappointed a lot. But my hope is believing in the future, whether I see it or not, is like, I know good will come. I don't know what it'll look like. And I think I love that you have stayed hopeful through this journey of recovery that isn't over yet. Like for you said, you still have procedures, but you're there. Like, look how far you've come and look at not only for yourself, but what a role model you are for other people. And as you said, you work with strong women, you're showing they're juggling so many things in their life. You got this huge thing thrown at you and you still said, okay, I'm tired, I'm worn, I don't want to walk through this, but I'm walking through it. And how do I stay hopeful and how do I stay optimistic? So I love it. What allows doubt to slip into your life and steal hope from you? What is something that you are an optimistic person? You are a woman of faith. You are a strong, influential woman. What are some of the things that steal that hope from you?
I would say humanity. I think all of us have a tendency not to see the same reflection that other people see in us. Mm-hmm. Just like you, someone could say, oh, Barb, you've done, A, B, C, D, whatever, fill in the blanks. And I'm thinking, well, yeah. And I don't think that's any big deal. And they're like, oh my gosh. Or just the opposite. Here, this is an example. I post on LinkedIn almost every day. And one of the things that was going around was This Little Girl Is Me, is what it's called. And it was a picture of you as a little girl, the struggles that you've been through, and then you as an adult. And I think one of the things that hit me as I'm reading this is from a self-esteem standpoint. We don't see what others do. Some woman made a comment and said, oh, I could never post on here because I haven't done any of the things you've done. And I commented and I said, are you kidding me? You're a nurse. You're saving people's lives. I could never do that. So our perspective, I think, can be different. And I think a lot of it goes back to the self-esteem of where do we get our where do we get our desire to go on? Where do we get that reflection that says you are valuable? Maybe for you and I, maybe that comes from faith, right? Maybe it's from wherever. But one thing I was telling someone the other day is that your self-esteem needs to come from inside you, not from the outside exterior forces, because it may be a point in time. You do something great at work. Oh, that's great. And then the next day someone goes, what did you do that for? That was kind of stupid. And they may not have meant anything by it. Or if anyone out there is a sports fan, one of the things that Patrick Mahomes said, who is our quarterback here in Kansas City, is I don't let one play dictate my mood. If I do a great play, that's great, but then it's back to the next one. And if I mess up one play, then it's not the end of the world. It was one play and I get back on it. I think our self-esteem robs us. It's kind of like someone who goes on a diet plan. And if they mess it up on Wednesday, they'll go, oh, I messed it up. I'll wait till Monday again. Instead of it was fill in the blank, one day, one meal, one whatever. Why do we sabotage ourselves like that? So I do think it's self-esteem, and I think it comes from within.
Okay. So you're saying that when your self-esteem is low, it kind of steals your hope. When you're not believing in yourself, liking yourself, feeling good about yourself, it can steal your hope for what's possible for your life or what is possible for your future. I like that. And I think it's true. It's a lifelong journey to work on liking ourselves and not letting other people's judgment of us, let alone our own judgment of ourselves, steal that hope
Yes.
for the future.
Yes.
All right. So what are you hopeful about? Tell me what you're hopeful about, Barb, about the future personally. What are you hopeful about? What are you hopeful about in your career, in your future life, in your clients' lives? Where do you have hope?
Wow. I am full of hope, but it does come in different places. As far as my career, I have changed a lot since the accident. I used to run after it, right? Oh my gosh, I'm going to go here and there and look here and there. And I'm going to dig this up and that up. And I feel like now I am at the point where I would say 90% of my business is repeat clients. I do a lot of conferences and conventions and things like you do, I'm sure. And a lot of my work is word of mouth, and I love that. Right? Does it mean I'm not going to go looking for it? No, but it also means that just like if you went to buy a car or something, there is a value to that car. And if you like the car and you appreciate that value, then you're willing to support that dealer and do that. So I love what I do. I love speaking and doing leadership development, and I love writing and all of those things. And hopefully those people that come value this dealer. And so when they come, they know they're going to get a quality, piece of whatever it is they're buying of me, whatever. And so for that reason, I love it, but I'm not throwing myself at it. It's more like I'm meeting halfway instead of trying to keep jumping the fence. So I love that. It has taken so much stress away. And it's more fun. I do a lot of executive coaching. I'm an adjunct at the university here. I coach their MBA folks, and it's exciting to me to see the new generation of corporate, if you will, coming in, and yet still season that with the more mature people who are in their careers. So that's the career side of it. From the personal side, wow, that's off the charts. I just feel so blessed. I went out with my husband today and played pickleball. Of course, I should say I went out and played chase the ball because we're new at this. But just being out there, Annie, and realizing that I can move, right? That we have, as hokey as this sounds, we have fresh air to breathe and, all that good stuff. It was wonderful. In probably 5 years, we're going to buy a home out in Colorado in the mountains. So I think that's pretty cool. The brand Propel Her that I have, I think it's a good time for that in many different ways. The little things I've let go of, and I'll give you for instance, I have wireless earbuds that I always use on webinars, and I have lighting. And as I told you before we started today, the lighting wouldn't work. And when I tested the earbuds, the wireless earbuds, there was all this static. And I thought, oh, I don't want to wear wired earbuds. That looks so. But you know what? I'm sure hopefully the people that are listening would rather hear me well than have wireless earbuds with static. So a lot of my hope for the future is in letting go of things that are superfluous, right? And concentrating on, the threes, the family, the faith, the friends, and my career. So I am extremely hopeful and optimistic about both of those. And I'm just looking forward to see what comes next.
I love that. And I think, Barbara, too, one of the things you said that I think is so important is I think sometimes we set that benchmark so high of I've got to make $1 million. I've got to have 100 speaking engagements this year. I've got to win at pickleball.
Yeah.
Sometimes hope comes in when we offer grace to ourselves, to the world, to our circumstance. So saying, hey, you know what? My hands work. Hey, my hands are working. This is exciting. Hey, there's fresh air to breathe. And I think when we keep it simple, you know what? I have clients that not only love me and love my message, but they call me and they want to work with me again. Or
Right.
they tell me, here's some clients for you to coach because we loved your message so much. So I think keeping it simple, I think you didn't say that word, but that's what I heard. I heard, you know what? One of the ways you stay hopeful for yourself personally and professionally is that you love that you played pickleball with your husband. Something that other people might say, that's not like that. I'm waiting for the big one. No, how about enjoy the moment? Enjoy the
That's,
moment.
I
Your
think
hands
that's
are working.
really important. There's nothing, obviously, you've heard this, nothing we can do about the past, and worrying about the future won't change it. You can plan for it, but not worry about it. And enjoying, and you keyed in on this word, enjoying the simple pleasures. Instead of focusing on this, you know what, if I put my hands up like this, they can tell that my right hand is not well, you know. Instead of focusing there, I'm gonna go, do you know, hey, let me focus here. It took me 9.5 months to be able to make a fist with my hand. But rather than say it took me 9.5 months, I am choosing to say I can make a fist with my hand. Where is your focus? Those are some of the things that can reinforce your hope or take your hope and your optimism away. It's a choice, and to me, I think that's a choice.
I love that. And I love that you're showing us visually because I think hope sometimes feels very untangible to people. But
I
the
agree.
truth is that if we think about the simple things like I can breathe, I can walk, I can move, I try to, when I don't feel like moving my body, be grateful that I can instead of focusing on I don't want to, or I'm tired, I don't feel like it, or I'm not getting the results fast enough that I want, or not, I'm not 20 anymore, whatever it is.
That was
So,
me.
right?
Yes,
Like
that
keeping it,
was me. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
It's
And
it's
sometimes
no. Go ahead.
I was just going to say sometimes those tragedies or challenges happen in our life to slow us down, but also to make us refocus because we're so busy that we lose sight. And I think you have such clear vision right now. And not that I wish that experience to you or anyone else, but I think in our challenges, which I've had as well, it helps us slow down and get into perspective the simple pleasures in life and the good things in life. So
You know, you said that word perspective and slowing down. I am in the process of writing my second book about the accident, and in all honesty, Annie, I'm not sure if I'm going to finish it or not. I don't know if it's self-serving or if the lessons are things that would make an impact to folks. But the first line of the book is, "Mom, you need to slow down," and it's so true, not just for me. And we feel like the world will stop revolving if we slow down. I worked at a large communications company for many years and worked my way up the ladder. And I remember every day was a fire drill catastrophe. If this project wasn't on time or this, fill in the blank, and we work ourselves up in knots. And yet, after I left there and started my own company, I remember it was about a month later, I'm driving by and I looked over and I thought, nobody cares. Nobody cares if that project is finished or if it's finished 10 minutes late. So they harp on the due date. They harp on the due date. But if you meet the due date, but it's not what they want, it's amazing how all of a sudden there's more time to redo it. I mean, right? So the perspective, I think, is important when you're dealing with or talking about hope and opportunity and those things.
yeah, I love that. Really important stuff. Important stuff to think about.
Yeah.
Hope and helping our audience think about how are they staying hopeful. And even if they're struggling, that there's still hope. So as we get done here, Barb, do you have any stories or specific lessons you want to teach us or share with us as we kind of close out today's chat on hope?
I won't go into all of them. There's a million of them. I I do think one thing that, well, I guess our dog has something to say about hope. She just barked there. Um, I would say, you touched on this earlier, don't take yourself so seriously. Remember that your heart, if you look at an image of it, has two sides. We try to fill it up with things, with the car, the house, or the job and the responsibilities and the doing. I've got to do this and do that for this person. And we don't give ourselves time to relax and focus and pray or meditate or whatever it is that you do. I do a program that talks about the science of prayer and meditation and the health benefits. Forgive someone. If you have a grudge against someone, forgive them because you're not hurting them. But a study by the Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins shows all the awful things it does to your body. So my message to those folks that are listening is give yourself some grace. Give yourself some time off.
Oh, as soon as she said time off, her camera went off. What is going on? She's lost service. Give yourself some time off. I don't think that's a bad place to end. We will make sure to share this and have Barb share her website and her information on how to get connected with her. But I always like to think about, instead of doing more, be more. So when you give yourself that grace to say, you know what, I want to be more present, be more patient, be more kind, be more inclusive. I think one of the ways that I stay hopeful is by always knowing the sun will come out tomorrow, like little orphan Annie, and also knowing that in this circumstance, in this struggle, if I look back to look forward, I remember how far I've come and that there are bright days ahead. Thanks so much for tuning in on H3 TV, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Stay healthy, hopeful, and happy.